Winter had wrapped the northern forest in a breathtaking silence. The trees stood tall and motionless, their trunks buried under thick layers of fresh snow that had fallen endlessly for days. The air tasted crisp, the world smelled clean, and every sound, every crackle of ice, every shifting branch, seemed magnified in the frozen stillness. Pillows of white covered the ground, making it hard to tell where earth ended and sky began. Only soft, endless snowfall filled the space between. In this frozen wonderland lived a polar bear mother and her tiny cub. They had made their home near a cluster of tall pine trees, their branches intersecting like a natural shelter. Each morning, the cub would poke his head out of the den, sniff the cold morning air, and hop excitedly into the snow. His mother watched him with gentle, protective eyes, her massive body blocking the wind whenever he shivered or stumbled. On this particular morning, the cub was even more energetic than usual. He bounced through the snow like a fluffy ball of white cotton, swinging his tiny paws in the air, chasing the falling flakes that melted upon touching his nose. His mother had slept less the previous night, having sensed unfamiliar human scents near their territory. Faint and far, but worrying. Yet she remained calm, careful not to alarm her cub. He was too little to understand danger. His world was only play, snow, warmth, and his mother. Still, a mother always knows when something feels off. She nudged her cub gently, urging him to stay close. The cub responded with a cheerful grunt and ran circles around her massive legs. For a while, she pretended not to worry. She watched him dig into the snow, sneeze when flakes collected on his eyelashes, and even roll down a small, icy slope with giggles that echoed softly in the cold morning air. But the forest was unusually quiet. No ravens cawed in the treetops. No fox rustled through the bushes. Even the wind seemed to be holding its breath. The mother felt something tightening inside her chest. The cub did not notice her unease. He found a trail of tiny branches scattered across the snow and followed them farther and farther away. His footprints disappeared quickly under the falling snow, making it hard for his mother to see the distance he'd already covered. She called out softly, a deep, throaty hum that usually brought him running back. But not this time. The cub, excited by his little adventure, chased a fluttering leaf that danced magically in the air. It drifted between two tall pines, where the snow grew deeper and the shadows darker. The leaf landed softly on a patch of white that seemed smooth, too smooth. The cub stepped onto it, and everything changed. The ground snapped upward with a violent jerk. A hidden hunting trap, thin metal wires lying silent beneath the snow, sprang to life. The cub found himself yanked into the air, tangled in rough ropes that cut into his fur. His scream sliced through the quiet forest like a blade. He cried once, twice, then again. The wind carried his voice only a little before the snowfall swallowed it. The trees felt as though they leaned closer, listening, but unable to do anything. The cub kicked, twisted, tried desperately to free himself, but the trap was merciless. His little paws grew stiff from the cold. The ropes dug deeper. His voice trembled, then weakened, then faded into a thin whimper. Time passed painfully slowly. Back where the mother searched for signs of him, something broke inside her. A strange stillness had replaced the cub's happy voices. She looked left, right, sniffed the cold air, and felt panic rising like a storm tide. She walked faster, then faster still. Her breath came out in heavy clouds of mist. Her heart pounded like a drum inside her chest. Then she heard it, just barely. A cry, small, fading, heart-wrenching. The mother froze for a moment, her entire body tensed, and then she charged toward the sound. She crashed through bushes, slipped on icy ground, regained balance, and kept running. The snow flew under her paws like white dust kicked up by an unstoppable force. When she reached the trapped cub, her heart shattered. Her baby hung limp and cold inside a suspended metal trap. His eyes were half closed, his breath shallow. Snow had begun to gather on his head, turning him into a pale ghost of himself. The mother roared until the trees shook. She leapt upward, clawing the net with all her strength. Her paws tore at the thick ropes, but they barely frayed. She bit the wires until her teeth tingled with pain, and yet the trap held strong. She pressed her entire body weight against the trunk, trying to bend the tree enough to loosen the net. It didn't move. Her baby whimpered, a weak, tiny sound that struck her like lightning. She tried again, and again, and again. Her claws bled. Her teeth scraped metal. Her entire body shook with desperation. But nothing worked. Her baby was dying. A low, mourning sound escaped her throat, a sound the forest had never heard before. It was the sound of a mother who had reached her limit, a mother on the edge of losing the only thing she lived for. In that moment, she did something no wild bear ever wants to do. She turned and ran toward the humans. She burst through the trees, stumbling into the main road carved through the forest. Her massive form, coated in frost, appeared like a ghost rising from the snow. The world seemed to hold its breath as she stopped in the middle of the icy road. Far down the path, bright headlights cut through the falling snow. A Jeep approached. The ranger driving it pressed his brakes so hard the tires skidded. His heart pounded when he saw the enormous polar bear blocking his path. But instead of charging at him, the mother let out a deep, trembling cry that echoed with desperation. The man instantly sensed something was wrong, terribly wrong. He grabbed his toolkit and stepped out, his boots sinking into the deep snow. The bear turned, walked a few steps, then looked back at him as if telling him to follow. He did. Together they ran back into the forest. Snow sprayed behind them. The ranger's breath fogged his goggles. The mother bulldozed through thick piles of snow, guiding him without hesitation. But danger had been waiting for them. As they neared the hanging trap, rustling sounds surrounded them. 3 hyenas crept out from behind the snowy bushes, their eyes glowing with hunger. They had been watching the trapped cub, waiting for the perfect moment to attack. And now they had new targets. The largest hyena snarled and charged at the mother. She roared with fury and met it head-on, slamming it into the snow so hard the ground trembled. The second hyena darted toward the ranger, teeth bared, ready to tear into him. But the mother hurled herself between them, roaring so loudly the very air vibrated. The third hyena leaped onto her back, biting deep into her shoulder. She twisted violently, grabbed it with her jaws and flung it across the snow. But the other 2 came again. They circled, snapped, lunged, bit, and struck with relentless hunger. Blood splattered onto the snow. The mother's paws were torn, her shoulder ripped open, her breath ragged, but she refused to step back. The ranger tried throwing snow, shouting, waving tools to distract the hyenas, anything to help her. And somehow, she fought through the pain. After a long, brutal struggle, the hyenas finally backed away, growling, bleeding, defeated. They disappeared into the forest shadows. The mother staggered. Her breath shook, but she didn't fall. Her baby still needed her. The ranger rushed to the cub, cutting the freezing ropes as fast as he could. His hands trembled from both cold and fear. The cub dangled helplessly, minutes away from losing life. The mother stood over them both, trembling but strong, as if guarding the last piece of her heart. Finally, the last rope snapped. The cub fell gently into the snow, where his mother immediately pulled him into her arms, curling around him, warming him with the last reserves of her strength. The cub blinked weakly, his small nose twitching. He recognized her scent, her warmth, but he was still fading. The ranger radioed the rescue team with urgency. Within minutes, the forest shook with the arrival of snowmobiles rushing through the storm. The rescue team jumped off, their jackets covered in frost, their medical kits in hand. They wrapped the cub in thermal blankets, placed a heating unit near him, massaged his limbs, and checked his heartbeat. The mother, though bleeding, allowed them to touch her cub. She even bowed her head as they stitched her wounds and disinfected her cuts. She understood now that these humans were helping. The cub was taken onto a stretcher, his tiny body shaking under the blankets. The mother followed him all the way to the snowmobile. Somehow, the team managed to transport both bears to the wildlife hospital. Inside, warmth enveloped them like a miracle. Doctors placed the cub under a heating lamp, hooked him to oxygen, gave warm fluids, and monitored his every breath. His body slowly regained color. His eyes fluttered. His paws twitched with life. The mother lay nearby, bandaged and exhausted, but she lifted her head whenever her cub cried. Her presence calmed him more than any medicine. For hours, she watched him fighting silently between life and death. Finally, the doctors smiled. "He's going to survive." The mother let her head fall back on the floor, her eyes closing in relief. 2 days passed before they were ready to return home. The cub, now stronger, took wobbly steps around the room. His mother, though sore, nudged him gently, encouraging him. When the rescue team loaded them into a truck, the cub pressed his small paw against the window, watching the snowy world outside. The mother sat close, her warm breath fogging the glass. When they reached the forest, the truck doors opened and cold wind rushed in. The cub stepped into the snow hesitantly, then with growing confidence. The mother walked beside him, her steps steady. Before they left, she walked up to the ranger, the man who had saved her child, and touched his hand with her nose. A gesture no one could misunderstand. A silent, powerful thank you. The cub blinked at the man, his eyes full of innocent gratitude, before following his mother back into the deep forest. Snow fell gently around them. Their white figures blended into the dreamy winter landscape. Soon they disappeared into the trees, two hearts reunited, two survivors returning home, wrapped by the soft music of falling snow.